You're listening to the voice of IWA Flip here on Interfed Radio. Welcome to Play Your Way. With me in studios, living double X, large, and in charge, Mr. Harrell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, man. You know what? I've been trying to get you on for a while now, bud. I really have. And like I told you before we started recording, you know, my job is to get as many play styles, as many managers on, you know, because, of course, you know, I always say it, and I've said it from the beginning, there's a lot of ways to play this game, and what better way to hear these play styles than to get the managers on that are playing the damn game. So glad to have you on.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been tag here, tag there, and now, you know, finally get a chance to sit down and actually talk.
Definitely, man. Now, you know, again, this is your show, so at any time if you want to, you know, change the script and hey, you know what, I got to get this in, feel free to, you know, stop me and get your say in. But I usually like to start with the history, you know, now because we talked a little before we started recording, and you've been in this game for quite a while now.
Oh yeah, well, started in 1987. October of that year. And it's been I've been playing on and off. There's been a few times that I've kind of like taken a couple months off here and there, but for the most part, I've been consistent about playing.
Nice. Now, I mean, you went through the whole evolution of the federations. Do you remember what your first league was?
Sure, it was the first league was the original Grim Reaper League.
Nice.
That had actually the original Psycho Kill Squad, which was a Psycho Death, Psycho Kill, and there was another one too. And of course, later on became the Death Warriors as well, which was, I think it was Timothy Williams had the Death Warriors in the second version.
Nice. Now you're throwing some names from way back in the days that I still haven't had a chance to meet, man. And to be honest with you, I've been reaching out to some of these older managers that are quote unquote retired to see if we can get some of them onto the show, man. So.
Yeah, my first feud was with David Shinkus, to be exact.
David Shinkus. Long retired?
Pretty much. I think he came back a couple times for brief runs, but you know didn't really do well, or he just didn't feel like doing it anymore, so he kind of retired as well. So, but he was way back when I started. So
nice. Now, obviously, you know, we talked before we came on, and we kind of got to the bottom of your play style. Now, of course, there's no right way to play this game. I mean, I remember myself carrying, you know, a bunch of wrestlers at one time, thinking I could compete with the at-large people. But no, that again, my definitely not my style.
Well, you know, I don't know, that kind of style to me is not really congruent to wrestling. It's more or less, you know, we're having this giant roster, we're playing the lottery, we're not actually doing anything but playing the lottery. It's not actually involving yourself in wrestling. Like, there's no storylines, there's no comments, and everything's done online. And it's kind of like, well, when Johnny V created this was for play by mail, not play by computer. So kind of like, it loses its luster when it gets to the point where everything is done online. At least from my perspective, it is.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I mean, that's a great thing to take it back to the traditional way of, like you mentioned, you know, this game was intended, you know, to be played online by mail. It was intended, you know, for everyone to have a character. So, and again, I'm not dissing the at-large game. Again, there's a big market for it. I thank those players for supporting the game. I know that there's, and I want to get a couple more of those at-large players on this show as well to kind of get a better understanding as to, you know, their play style. Because, you know, like I said, shout out to Robbie, shout out to Frank, shout out to all those at-large players out there. But again, it's not my style. I'm not mocking it, but it's just not the way, you know, I think the game was intended to be played. And again, there is no right way to play it, but the way I like it and the way I want to see the game evolve is kind of what you're mentioning, you know, by mail, you know, stylish, you know, character
Yeah.
based.
Well, that's my style of play. It's like, mine now is a small roster, developing my character, over time, and actually giving them personality, um, their own sets of holds, whatever they decide to use. And it's all right now. Mine's all character driven. It's like some people are just all about titles, and I'm like, well, titles are great, but at the end, it's not really what I'm interested in. Yeah, I win a few here and there. That's great. I've won everything that I needed to win, and I don't really have anything to prove to anybody anymore. But the game it's changed a lot, and in some ways, it's really good. And I really don't have much against most of the guys who do flooding, but there are the few of them that stick out and kind of like, you just need to shut up. But but
And again, and whether and again, this is like I told you before, brother. I go, there's no right way to play it, but again, I want to know what the deal is. I want to know, hey, I mean, I know, and I know they have their own. Shout out to Mike Cook who does the tracking for the end of the year's points for the at-large players that are looking to hit the report every cycle. So I want to know more about that game because I know so little of it. Again, I don't know enough to to say yay or nay or this or that about it. But it does strike me at times when I hear that some managers carry 200 plus a federation, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow, like shout, kudos if you got the means, if that's the way you're having fun, more power to you. But back to our play style, Cal, because like you said, your characters, in a similar way to mine, don't disappear. I kind of see it, and as I'm gonna give a little secret away. I'm not a real big wrestling guy. I enjoy the IWA because it's allowed me to get to know more about the wrestling history and more about wrestling itself. Because when I start talking to people about how I like moving my character from fed to fed or from league to league, and how his history stays with them, they start talking about the wrestling or actual wrestling back in the days, how you know fighters would go uh, from wrestling promotion to wrestling promotion, carrying their name, winning different titles in different promotions throughout the South, throughout the Mid Atlantic, throughout and they're like, dude, that was wrestling. That's kind
hmm
of what I envision my character in the IWA doing. It's like he's going from this league to that league, winning their title, making a name for himself in this league. Like you mentioned, your characters as well. They don't
yeah,
just disappear when they go to a new league. Their history kind of travels with them.
exactly. Well, it's like, take Roddy Piper for example. Back in the day before he was in WWF, he was actually in NWA. He was in Calgary. He was in Portland, but he was still Roddy Piper. Wherever he went, he was still Roddy Piper. Now, most people just recognize him from the WWF days, but there's a huge history prior to him coming to the WWF. I think it was like 82 or 83 when he came there.
Nice.
But prior to that, if you watch the NWA days, I mean, he had like series of Ric Flair. He had a busted eardrum because of Greg Valentine. He had feuds with Ole Anderson. He was actually a tag team partner to Ole Anderson at one point. So it's like that kind of
Nice.
history kind of goes with my idea for wrestling. It's like I carry like my wrestler right now, Gutbuster. He is entire. I have like an entire history on him because from a writing perspective, he carries his history every time he goes.
Yeah, I'm there with you on that aspect. I mean, yeah, your fighter should. I mean, and it is tough because obviously this is a play by mail game. So
Mm-hmm.
when you get to a new league, you got to kind of reintroduce him and and talk a little about his history and where he's coming from. And sometimes because it is a play by mail game, manager A or manager B may not be active that cycle, so they miss your introduction. So I mean, I ran into that headache or that little hiccup in the game at times where like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Where, and
Mm-hmm.
but I think social media has allowed us that luxury now where we can actually reach out to certain managers and kind of, I guess kind of work, like I think you were mentioning the movie The Wrestler and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I think the social media aspect has allowed us that kind of a work. We're like, hey, who's your guy? Where is he coming from? Okay, he's coming from there. He's won what titles, or he was in a feud with what what stable or with what faction, or and it allows us to kind of bring these characters to life even more now.
that's true. Um, the aspect of the using the internet is, you can talk to other managers and say, hey, let's start this feud. It's like my Indian feud with Connecticut Yankee. Um, Connecticut Yankees in the AWL and I'm in GWL. So we're doing a cross federation series, best of three.
Nice.
Of course, if Yankee wins, he gets $100,000. So that was my ending feud for retirement. So I said, well, I'll set up with some guy I've feuded for probably 20 or more years. I've been feuding with Yankee since probably the Weekly Report. That's
Wow.
how long. That's how long ago it was. Let's see. It was a 6-man tournament, and it was a U.S. 6-man. It was World or U.S. 6-man tournament that they had at the time through the Weekly Report. And Yankee was on one team, and I was on another team, and ever since then, it's been a feud. It's just I've always gone after Yankee, no matter where he's at. Same with Macho King Lord Dread, which was I can't remember the guy's manager's name right now, but Maitland, Rob Maitland. I've been feuding with him since '89.
My goodness.
Yeah, so the feuds have been going on forever, but the thing is that they evolve after time. Like Maitland's been out of the IBA for years. He talked about coming back in October, and I was actually going to bring back one of my wrestlers, the one who was feuding with his, just so we can have another series. It's never developed, but I understand because sometimes life takes its toll and you just can't get back in the game when you need to get back in. But the thing is that the game is, you get the opportunities where you talk to people online and go, hey, like working with you or working with Maccabee, or that way I get a chance to talk to them and say, hey, look, this is what I want to set up. You want to, you want in. And most people are really good about being able to talk to each other about things. There are some that you just can't talk to, but that's neither here nor there. But for the most part, the internet does help a lot, but it also kind of hampers the game a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think I think we talked right before we got on in terms of, I mean, it's funny you mentioned the AWL, because I bring up the AWL when I talk about trash talk and the pace that some of these leagues run, because Will has done an amazing job with the AWL. He's been the commissioner there, going on his 5th year now,
Yeah.
and he does a pay-per-view every cycle, and people
He
are like, "That's nuts! That's
Well,
crazy!"
his report is done extremely well. Um, the way he runs his stuff it is so quick,
Yeah.
and it's such a big turnover. But he's got that one league, and the thing is, though, he spends all of his time focusing on his commissioner's report because he does a really great commissioner's report. There's no.
Yeah, no, I've actually mentioned it to a couple people right now that we're bringing him up. He has a Google Docs page where he has the history of all the titles. He
Mm-hmm.
has, and again, shout out to Will. Will, you're, great commissioner. The pace is just what strikes me, and people are like, there's no way you can build an angle. And it's like, well, you know what? There is a different type of pace that it's ran there. I mean, because it's such a fast pace that like you just mentioned, you have a feud with the Yankee, but your feud is outside of the federation to federation, so you still have a trash talk angle brewing there,
Right. Well,
but
actually, you
with
could with his, you can still do that too. Because most of my wrestlers, when I was in there, I would run long angles, even though people were trying to undercut me and kind of like, hey, I have a mass wrestler and I have a mass wrestler. Let's have a mass match. I'm going, I just got into the league. I'm not ready to lose my mask to you. And even if I did, I wouldn't have that kind of mask with you. I mean, that kind of match with you, because
Right.
it defeats the purpose of the build up to it.
Yeah, I think
And
there has to be a purpose. There has to be let's let's find something that's gonna lead us to that type of a match, because that's a big type of match in my eyes. I mean,
it
that's
is. It's
a
like it's a feud ending match. Is basically what it is. It's like a hair versus hair match. It's the feud ender. Like, you
yes,
don't start out with a cage match immediately. You build up to a cage match. You start out with a best 2 out of 3 falls or a lumberjack match, and then you get to the cage match. Instead of just, let's go to the cage match right now. It's like, no,
yeah,
we're not getting there yet.
yeah. Let's work a little. But and again, getting back to the AWL, uh, like you mentioned social media. A league like the AWL has used uses social media so much, because he'll get on there and he'll be like, we got such and such pay-per-view coming on, who wants a match?
Right.
And the managers just boom 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 get on there, respond. Next thing you know, there's an 18 card pay-per-view for next cycle ready to go. And so yeah, so there is a different pace to be run, but again, like you mentioned, I think it's up to the managers to actually kind of slow down the throttle of their angle, not necessarily of the pace of the league, but like you just mentioned, hey, you know what? Even if manager A wants a mass versus mass match, I'm going to deny it, because that's a deal breaker right there. It's like, no, 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 we're not
Yeah,
going to that extreme yet.
exactly. And so it's like, but I mean, the ABL is one of the exceptional leagues in the IBA. Will runs a tight ship. There is nothing wrong with anything he does. I mean, he's like one of the few I can look at and go, he's a perfect commissioner.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah, he,
but
he,
the
he does it.
mhm. And the league itself is good. There's a few malcontents in there, and I can't go back to the AWL because of those. But that's beside the point. But Will does a great job. I mean, I've always kind of went back to the league every once in a while just to hang out and have some fun. And then, once my character kind of loses its steam, I kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna bow out right now because of that. Because it's like sometimes the characters run their angles, but if you run out of storylines for him, you kind of like, okay, what do I do with him? You know,
Yeah,
and
I'm the same way, because our, I guess, my play style revolves around trash talk. It runs around angles that there are some times where it's just kind of like you just said. I ran my course with that angle. I ran my course with that character there.
mm-hmm.
Nothing else is kind of biting right now. So I got to move on, kind of
Yeah,
rejuvenate that character somewhere else.
and that's what happens with a lot of the leagues that I've dropped out of. Like, I love the Yellow Jacket League, but the character I was running just didn't have enough steam behind it. And so, I ran it for a few cycles, and I was just kind of like, yeah, this is not going anywhere. I don't like what I'm writing, and it's not developing like I want it to develop. And so, of course, I have to pull out because the league I'm not doing very well. Not because my strategies are bad, just because I can't write for the character. And if I can't write for the character, I really don't want to keep beating a dead horse.
Right. Oh yeah, no, and again, I mean, I think with especially writers, because you bring up a good point, whether it's like myself right now, I've just ran out of time, so I don't have that luxury to have the time to sit down and develop a great angle for some of my characters, that I've had to cut back drastically just to have a few characters, because I just don't have the time to write for 20 plus characters. It's just not going to happen right now.
Well, that's what's with me too. It's like going to college, working, and having a regular life. Sometimes I don't have enough time to write like 10 different characters, so I cut it down to just a handful.
Yeah.
That way I know that, Gutbuster this is how he acts. This is the kind of moves he does. This is the kind of personality he has. Okay, I got
Now
that
you
down.
have Gutbuster in what league right now?
Right now he's in the GWL,
Nice.
um, global. What is
Global
it?
Wrestling.
Global Wrestling League, yeah. And so I mean I had him in like 4 other leagues, and it really wasn't developing. Even though I brought the character with me, nobody was biting at it. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to cut this league because after 4 cycles, no one's talking. I was like, okay, we're done. This is not working out very well. So, I move on. And Gutbuster actually started out as a jobber in the ASL, just some wrestler I was knocking around with.
Nice.
And he just started snowballing. I started adding things to his personality, and suddenly now he's actually a full character. He's got a hometown, he's got a real name, he's got so forth and so on. And he has his own. I mean, like I've got a list of holds that he does. So if I'm describing a match, these are the moves that he does every time. Almost not every time, but I have like 3 or 4 pages of notes of like just what he'll do in a match style.
Nice. Now, biggest roster you've ever had?
Probably at my height, about 91 or 92, I may have had 50.
Okay.
And most of them were.
Yeah, that's not too big. That's not too big of a roster. Like I said, especially after hearing some of these other stories that I've heard from some of these managers, it's like, yeah, that's a decent amount right there.
Well, at one point, I think I had like 30 of the Confederate headbangers. So, which was kind of a knock. There was a group called the Confederate Warriors at one point. And so, I'm a heavy metaler. So I was kind of like, well, let's do something a little bit different. So I did Confederate headbangers.
Nice.
And so I had 20 or 30 of them strung out throughout the entire IWA. Yeah. So it was kind of like something fun to do like that. And of course, then there was the Death Warriors. And I think I had like the Death Machines, which were, I only had like 3 of those. But yeah, it's like I've never really gone to the point where, I have a gigantic roster like some.
Now, the other sides of the game, like commissioning, ever commissioned a league, ever
I've
taken
commissioned for probably close to 20 years.
Nice.
Or more, maybe. There's been a few years I was a commissioner. But yeah, I've commissioned on and off throughout the entire time I was in the IPA.
Yeah, I tried it 1 year. Obviously with my MML experience, and before
But
that,
you
I
were,
did.
but
I
you were
did a
really good
few.
at that.
Oh man, it's just so time consuming, brother, and I just my I greatly appreciate the commissioners that are out there nowadays because I know the time that goes into it to keep something going. I mean, someone like Will, like I just mentioned, is doing 4 years plus. Some of the guys over in the gold have been doing it for 10 plus years, more even. And
Yep.
shout out to them because again, I know what it takes to keep it going just for a year because that's all I did, and I was like, I want to get back to playing, and I nothing against commissioning because it is you got to have heart to do it, brother, and
Yeah.
I just wish the IWA would give us commissioners or give those commissioners a little more to more
It would be
incentive, but
nice. It would be nice, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
I've
I
done it
get it.
for it takes a lot of time, especially if if you run even a moderately sized roster, and you write comments as well, and then you're doing commissioner's report. That takes a lot. It's like, okay, how much energy do you want to put into your commissioner's report, or how much energy you want to put into your wrestlers?
Right.
And if you can't balance the
And
two,
that I think that became my deal breaker where I was so involved with the report that I was kind of losing traction with my characters, and I was like, you know what? I'd rather do the character stuff because that's what I enjoy about the game more. And I did feel bad because like I said, I enjoyed the MML for that year, but
mm-hmm.
at the same time, I was like, you know what, I want to get back to playing. And then that's when I tried, that's when I started this. I started the interfet, so it gave me time to do this other stuff that, I'm enjoying now, because it's what my time allows, brother. So I,
Yeah, I get that. It's like, and the problem with me is that while I'm doing commission reports and then looking at characters, and I'm like, my characters are starting to suffer, and I'm kind of like, that's really not coming together like I wanted to. And so it's kind of like it's like I lose interest in this wrestler, and it's like, okay, well, he's not going where I want him to go, and of course nobody's reacting to him, so I lose that kind of aspect of it, and going, okay, well, he goes, I put him in the GYL until I come up with something better, and then you spend time just putting your commissioner's report together, which sometimes it can take an hour or more.
Oh yeah.
And it's when you have time constraints, kind of like, I don't really have time to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways.
I always tell people, I go, oh man, I those early mornings, I remember staying up like, you know, crack of dawn, and I'm falling asleep at the computer, just trying to get it into Kim before the damn league reveals. I'm like, oh dude, I definitely don't miss those days. And shout out to those commissioners that stay up till the break of dawn,
Well,
pumping out their reports.
that's the reason I do mine. Like as soon as the report hits on the website, I'm already starting to work on my report.
Oh,
I mean, just
nice.
just because
Stay.
it's like, I know I got this much amount of time to do it in. I've got to have it done. Like the GWL hit yesterday, right?
Uh-huh.
I've already done my strategies. I've already done all my matches, and I'm ready to mail it out.
Nice. Look at you. Ahead of the game.
And
Yeah.
and a lot of times, if I have like extra time, I'll have like 6 comments ready to go for the next 6 cycles.
Oh, nice. Just to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah. See, I'll pick pieces apart, and I'll have like a notebook full of ideas that I want to say, and then when it comes time to write an actual comment or trash talk, I'll fit it into what I'm working on. So
Yeah.
I have notebooks full of information that if I would just use the stuff that I have now, I could probably write trash talk for another 2 years.
Just with what you got.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we all enjoy, I guess, getting that, the nostalgia of getting a report and actually seeing someone respond to your character, seeing
Yep.
somebody, whether they're piggybacking off of something that you wrote in the comments, or whether they just have a throwback to your name or something. I think everybody enjoys that. So, I think that's one of the things I look forward to when I pick up a report and just, like, did anybody respond to something that I said last cycle? Did I get under? I mean, because this is a game. I always tell people
Mm-hmm.
that. I go, you know what? Don't ever take any of the comments that I put in the bulletin, to heart. I know I do everything in character. I do everything, character based. So, please don't get butthurt. You know,
Right.
I don't need that. I go, everything that I'm doing is in character. I go, if you ever want a chance, if you ever want to get on the show and talk to me one on one, person to person, here I am. I go, I'm not hiding, behind anything or anything else. I go, everything that I do is in character. So, and I think that's the one thing that I enjoy, tremendously from, people like you mentioned, Maccabee and someone like Madden, because we talk so much, away from the game, that we know what we're building in the game, and we don't ever take, anything that happens within the game to heart, because next thing you know, he's kicking one of my, characters in the face, or taking their soul in another league, or, and it's like, I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. It's part of the action. It's part of the theme of the league, so I don't take it to, you know, I don't take it to heart, man. So
Yeah.
we
It's not the game is not personal, but I think a lot of the managers spend more time making it personal than it really needs to be. Especially on like Facebook and stuff. I'll say a bunch of crap. I mean, I'm the first to admit, I'm talking a lot of crap, but if you knew me, I'm not that person that's on Facebook. I just do it to rattle some cages and get some action going and make people like, okay, we're coming after you. Well, that's great. Come after me.
Yeah,
Here I am. Don't
right, right, right.
come to me. Come after me. I dare you.
Yeah,
And that's the whole thing with with Maddie. It's like he's run his mouth, but I'm like, okay, fine. You want to run your mouth? I'll run it back. But in reality, I'm not like that. I'm not that kind of person. I play a character on Facebook.
and yeah, and that's why I like having these shows, brother, because it clears the air with a lot of the stuff that goes on. It's like, hey, you know what, I've gotten to know so many different managers outside of the game, and it's like, I go, bro, I get it. I completely get it. It's like one of the managers is all like, man, if I didn't know you, outside of the game, like, man, you're a trip. I was like, I go, yeah, man. I go, but that's the beauty of the game, man. It allows us to, meet people, and I think, and grow within the game, because it is a wrestling, especially, myself. I use it as a creative, as a way to get my creative side out, because that's
Exactly.
I get to do my little write ups, I get to do my little posters, I get to do all my creative stuff. So it's just, it's a creative outlet. Some people are telling me they're like, oh, I needed to blow off steam. It's like, hey, I had a rough day. I want to sit down and I want to write because, I have a job that I can't blow off steam at work. So I just want to get here and I want to talk some smack and let off some steam. It's like, I get it, bro. I go, that's what we use these games for, to relax, to get away from the norms, so.
Exactly. It's like, it's like going to like Hulk rage when you get into playing the game. Because it's like suddenly you go from this mild mannered person and you get into the bulletins and you're starting to go on, and you start turning into the Hulk and you're starting to get mad and you're like, I'm putting in, you know, a bunch of medals just to live there, like Five Finger Death Punch, and I'm
Nice.
listening to that stuff and Godsmack, and I'm sitting there going, I'm gonna, and it just kind of flows from the rage that you're putting into it, and especially when you're doing sneak attacks. It just kind of like, okay, well, we can go this way, we'll go this way, and so it does help as therapeutic as it is.
Oh yeah, I still remember, brother, and I'm gonna. I think we can end with this story here, brother, because it's one that I think I've been wanting to talk to you like on air about. And I remember I was at work one day, and we're going back and forth on Facebook, and my coworker, shout out to Paul, the dead man, is you and him are going at it. I think it was with your Santiago character and his
Yeah,
Rampage character,
right.
and you just letting them have it, bro. And he's in the other room because we're separated from little cubicles and stuff, and he comes over, he's all like, and he's like adamant, he's like, this guy's talking about my mom, and I'm just like, I'm like, bro, he's not talking about your mom. He's talking about Rampage's mom. Don't take it personal. It's in character. Like if you can't lose your cool. He's all like, oh no, I gotta talk to him because that's not cool. And I'm just like, bro, you gotta take a chill pill. Relax, Paul. Nothing's wrong. Like, just take a step back. It's in
Yeah,
character. And we're just cracking up over it, man. And I'm like, oh man, and again, I had such a blast because his emotions were real,
yeah,
like because he was still, like he was so deep and so invested in it that once you got him, you knew you had him, so you just kept turning the screw,
exactly.
turning the screw. Oh man.
Exactly. Well, that's what Ricky Morton was saying a while back about, the problem with professional wrestling is that people are not invested in it. If you watch WWE, people are not invested. You know, you got to make the person in the front row believe that it's actually happening for the entire arena to believe it's happening. And that's the way IBA is. If you cannot make it look like it's actually, make people interested and make people invested, it's basically just not going to go anywhere. And
I,
you kind of lose your interest in it. And you kind of like, what's the point? And
I think that's what my brother, I mean my younger brother, I mean you ask him about, I mean, he honestly, like, truly believed the Undertaker was the dead man. Like, this
right.
guy's so awesome because he sold it. He sold it from the beginning. He just, he was a great at selling his, every transition that he made. He was great at selling. So
Exactly. The thing is that you got to sell the character. And it's like selling the character is my biggest joy out of the game. It's like if my character can get over, if I can get Gutbuster to be invested in a feud with Connecticut Yankee, even though Gutbuster is relatively new compared to Yankee, it's still I'm investing the time. Yankees invested in it. I'm invested in it, and it makes for a good storyline.
yes,
Even though it's 20 years in the making. It's still relative. I mean, it's still relevant. I mean, and that's the whole point, is to make this character as believable as possible. Without, there's certain lines you just don't cross, but yeah, but for the most part, yeah, it's like with Santiago and Rampage. That was, one day it was just one of those things like, oh yeah, he's visiting Rampage's mom at the nursing home, and he's taking her out on dates, and
Oh, that was classic, man. And yeah, and he was biting. I mean, you talk about going fishing, and he was biting because he just kept coming and coming,
mm-hmm.
and I loved it, man. That was awesome.
So that's the kind of reaction I want. I want you to be mad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want your character to be pissed off at my character, because you know what? It makes my writing that much better. Now, if you're just going to be lackluster about it, my writing's not going to be better. It's not going to meet your stand. It's not going to meet up to what you're doing.
Yes.
And so what I do is I try to challenge that person that I'm feuding with. Meet me here. Let's do this. Let's, get in the ring and actually let's make a story out of it. And let's invest energy into creating this character.
Oh yeah, because I remember that series. I mean, that series just elevated from that moment on, and
Mm-hmm.
I think Santiago ended up beating him in a best of 5 series, and
Mm-hmm.
it was awesome, man. It was the type of story that I got engulfed in because of the writing. It was like these two characters really hate each other. These two characters really want to go at it. Like,
Yeah.
oh man,
And so that's the point. It's like, and that's where, these large stable managers kind of lose the luster, because,
oh,
there's no investment.
well, yeah, they're playing a completely different game, brother. I mean, and again,
Exactly.
I want to get them on. I want to hear their side. I want to get as many of them on to see, because a lot of these guys, they're number guys. They like playing the strategies. They like playing the numbers. They want to hit, and I'm not ever going to claim to be shooting for a perfect point flow because that's not my game style.
Yeah,
But these guys,
exactly.
that's what they're shooting for. They have so many strategies that they're hitting. They're trying to hit that perfect point flow. So it wouldn't hurt to pick their brain, see if I can get better at the numbers game, because damn, I suck.
Well, and I
Oh,
mean, I guess that's okay for those who want to do it, but it's just like, to me, from my perspective, it's like, it's a waste. To me, it's just a waste of energy, a waste of money, and it's not really a lot of. To me, it doesn't look like fun, because all you're concerned with is, him. I got to hit a 501 every time, and it's like, great, that's wonderful, but what are you actually doing other than that? I mean, and but that's my perspective.
yeah, oh yeah, no, and again, like I said, I definitely challenge them, or not challenge them, but I welcome them onto the show and invite them on anytime they can to get a better perspective of their side. But
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I like to hear what they got to say. You only get to see one aspect of it on Facebook, and most of us are playing characters anyways on Facebook, so you really don't know what's really going on behind the scenes.
yeah,
And so that would be kind of cool to hear what they've got to say about it.
oh man. Well, Mr. Double XL, man, I mean, I hope I can get you on more often. Like I said, anytime you have a league to promote or a character you want to, kind of shine a little more light on, feel free to hit me up. I'd love to have you on as much and as often as time allows us, brother.
No problem. I'll be glad to. But it's like I said, I invite everybody else to come to the GWL. It is a limited league. It's only 6 wrestlers, but come on over. I need more people to feud with. I mean, I think it's Randy Angel's there, and I think it's Randy Angel.
What
One of them.
what federation? GWL, is that gold?
That's gold.
Gold. So shout out to the GWL and the gold. Get yourself over there. It is a limit league, so if they can get over 50, it'll qualify for elite. Is that safe to say?
Well, we got actually we have 184 right now, and most of those are jobbers.
Oh no, I'm saying if you guys get over 50 cards a cycle, it qualifies for elite. Is that?
Yes.
Oh,
And we're at 30 right now. So.
oh, nice. So yeah. So it's just a couple more to get over that hump, man. So
Yep. Yeah.
yeah,
We can always use more trash talkers. I mean, that's I have like 4 wrestlers in there, and I need more people to feud against.
Nice.
Nothing against this Randy, but it's just like, me and Randy are going back and forth, and it's kind of like we need some more people in here so we can start talking.
Right. Get some more action going.
Yeah,
So get yourself over to the Global Wrestling League in the Gold and bring some trash talk.
exactly. More trash talk, better.
Awesome. All right, guys, you've been listening to myself, IWA Flip, with Mr. Double XL, Mr. Cal Harrell. Thank you much for coming on. We'll see you guys next time.